This is the December 20 Hastings Planning Commission. This is a regular meeting. Second item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from November 9th. Do we have any comments or corrections? Commissioners? Not a lot. I'll entertain a motion to pass these.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Kyle, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Take and roll, I guess, right?
Yep, take and roll, Mr. Chair. I will
Thank
do
you.
Commissioner Romans,
Aye.
Commissioner Messina,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hallberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Best,
Aye.
Commissioner Matzke.
Aye.
I will note that that passes 6-0. Thank you.
All right. We do have a public hearing tonight. We're talking about an ordinance amendment 2020-03, namely the C2 zoning and interim uses. John, you want to give us background on this one?
Will do, Mr. Chairman. What we're doing tonight is asking the commission to hold a public hearing and to recommend action on the attached ordinance amendment to City Code. We're looking at amendments to Chapter 30, which is city organizations, along with Chapter 155, which is the zoning code. Some of the items that we have before you are familiar to most of you. We did take a look at this early in 2020. I'll go through some of the history of that and also some of the changes that we have before us tonight. What we're looking to do is to provide some better language within the C2 code. It's kind of an unusual district in its organization. First of all, we're looking to eliminate the ambiguities within the existing C2 zoning districts by adding some further definition to allowable uses. We're removing uses that are not presently utilized within the district and are inconsistent with Vermilion Corridor. And we're clarifying an application of site plan review requirements for site modifications. These are things that we are doing with this amendment, some of the objectives we're doing with it. You may recall that earlier this year, we did take a look at this. We held a public hearing back in January, discussed changes to the code. That was tabled by the commission at that time, brought back on February 10th. At the February 10th meeting, we had a robust discussion on changes to the C2 district. Ultimately, the commission voted 7-0 to recommend denial of the proposed ordinance changes. The commission discussed the effect of the amendment on motor coach commerce facilities proposed on a property. You may recall that we do have an ongoing lawsuit for a property within this district that would like to have what's termed a motor coach commerce facility. And that's active litigation that we're going through at present. I'll go through some of the modifications and how that's changed related to this hearing in just a moment. So we did recommend a denial of that at that time. That action never did go forward to the city council. Staff had a pause on it at this point, waited for the lawsuit to work its way out. It's still going on some 9 months later, but we are bringing back this amendment for you. And one of the major items within the amendment is there is an inclusion of something termed a motor coach commerce facility. Under the existing C2 zoning code, the motor coach commerce facility that's being proposed would not be allowed. And under the changes we had to the code back in February, this would have been termed a use that would not be permitted within the district. Right now, as the ordinance is written, we are allowing motor coach commerce facilities per a specific definition as what's termed an interim use within the C2 district. What an interim use is, it's pretty much like a special use permit in which this is something that a planning commission and a city council can review, add certain conditions to the operation of it to ensure it operates consistent with the goals of the underlying zoning code. The difference between an interim use permit and a special use permit is interim use permits are temporary, where a special use permit, when issued, goes on until perpetuity, until the use were to cease. an interim use permit would be termed for a period of years. Now, the year period that an interim use permit would be active for would be made during the determination of the permit application. So they may vary from permit to permit. But the important thing is that there is an end date for an interim use permit on this proposal. What we've done within the code itself is we've added a section within Chapter 30 called interim use permits. The language of the interim use permits is virtually identical to that of the special use permit section. We wanted to be consistent with the same procedure there with that. We've also added some definitions of equipment sales and rental facilities, motor coach and motor coach commerce facilities, and travel trailers within the definitions, so they have a better idea of what's happening here. When we take a look at what a motor coach commerce facility would be and what the term of a motor coach would be itself, a motor coach is different from a recreational vehicle. In this case, what we're terming a motor coach, it's a type A motor home, which is defined in Minnesota state statutes. It has an overall length of no less than 20 feet and being no more than 15 years old at the time of use. So we wanted to ensure that if we were to allow motor coach commerce facilities and motor coaches within this district, that we have a specific definition. And in discussing this with the attorneys when involved in the lawsuit, we have come to a conclusion that I think there's some comfort level for 15 years or less with the age of the vehicle and being a Class A motor coach, which is essentially a type of bus, type of situation here that would be allowed within that district itself. So we are providing that specific definition and allowing that as an interim use permit. So I think that's one of the major changes that we have within the code changes itself. Some of the other changes that are brought forward here are very similar to what was shown back in February. So this is a public hearing. You may open the public hearing at this time, or I can stand for any questions. Thank you.
Does anybody have anything pressing, or should we jump into the meeting? If I don't hear anything, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. All right. Let's open the public hearing at this time. And then I guess the question would be, is there any public?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see anyone in the audience at this point, so we do not have a public.
Okay, if by chance someone should show up, why don't you let us know, John?
Will do.
And
Just
maybe
at this point, Mr. Chairman, is if you'd want to close the public hearing, there's no one in attendance at this point. If for some reason someone does jump on the call prior to action being taken on this, I'll let you know and we can open it back up again.
Dan, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to, it looks like I've got nothing. I just wanted to quick say that I was going to open up the email that we have that public might have sent comments in. There was nothing there this afternoon. I hadn't looked at it since probably about 2:00, so I was just opening that up quick, and there's nothing later this afternoon either. So no receipt.
We have no response from the public email or otherwise. Was there a notification circumference, or how was this notified to the public?
Notified on the website and through the official paper.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll revisit conversations with the public if and when they happen. I'm going to close the public hearing at this point. So commissioners, anybody want to start out? Go ahead.
Hey, John, question for you. As far as the type of vehicle that's allowed, is there any verbiage in here for original equipment versus one that's converted, a conversion type of situation? Because I know you said the vehicle itself needs to be 15 years or less as far as age goes. does it address the motor coach itself as a converted motor coach from, let's say, a school bus that's less than 15 years old, or any type of regular bus that's sold set on the market and then refurbished into a quote unquote motorhome? Does it address those types of vehicles and those types of situations?
Commissioner, as far as a rehabilitation of a vehicle, it does not address that specifically. I think the overriding aspect of this is that the vehicle itself has to be 15 years or less. So the original vehicle itself would need to be 15 years or less. I would not have that definition if you were to have an older piece of equipment and that was refurbished. It goes down to the original date of the vehicle. That's what I think would take precedence in this.
Okay, so it would, let's say, for example, somebody took a school bus and converted it into what they called a Class A motor home or motor coach, and it was under 15 years old. They potentially could do that.
They would need to meet that state statute definition there on what a Class A motor home would be. And I don't know if a converted school bus would meet the definition of that.
Okay, thanks.
So I got a question, John. So essentially, you're permitting this activity to happen with Class A only, Type A, I should say.
That is correct. That's the proposal moving forward. We've had significant discussion with the city council and how maybe 3, 4, or 5 closed door sessions to come up to an agreement in which could we find some common ground to allow this to continue. And one of the things that we have come upon is that we need to have a definition for what a motor coach would be, and that the 15 years or less was an important aspect to ensuring that these would be high quality vehicles.
Gotcha. Refresh my memory, was the applicant talking about doing Type A, or what was his game plan the last time we visited this?
I believe this is consistent with what his thoughts for operation would be. There's been significant back and forth between the attorneys representing us on this case and the attorneys representing the applicant. And this should be consistent with what he wants to do.
Was there any reason then not to include Type Bs or Cs? Or is it going back to something a little more high caliber, I guess?
We're moving forward with something that would be more higher caliber on this one. This is consistent with what the applicant, the litigant, I should say here, is brought forward and said this is what he wants to do. So this is consistent with what he has brought forward as a plan for development of the site.
Okay. Commissioners, thoughts?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
quick question for John. The time lengths then are completely negotiable throughout the process, and then would be approved by the commission and the council to whatever is agreeable to all parties?
Yes, what would happen here is what we have before us is the ordinance amendment. So assuming this moves forward and this was adopted into law, then there would be a process in which someone can make application for an interim use permit for a motor coach commerce facility within the district. So then that application would be made, would be reviewed by the planning commission, One of the aspects of the review would be to set certain conditions and to set a time frame on the operation of that. And then that would move forward to council.
All right, and then with that, because I see as part of it here, you do have the kind of the requirements similar to what is laid out for the for a special use permit or anything like that. Is there any sort of like kind of like what am I thinking of? A variance or anything like that of any sort of like legal thing where we want to go through and make sure we're checking off all of these boxes? Or is it pretty, is there a little bit of subjectivity to here?
Commissioner, anytime you're looking at an interim use or a special use permit, there's some subjectivity that the commission can invoke in determining whether it should be issued or not, and certainly related to the conditions that are set upon it. So there is some discretion there.
Okay. All right. No, that's all I had. Thank you.
So just to clarify, John, we're looking to approve these proposed changes to Chapter 30 and Chapter 155.
That is correct, Mr. Chair. This would be a recommendation to the City Council. City Council would have another public hearing upon action and then an adoption of the ordinance.
Okay. Well, if we get a motion on the floor, we could see how we all feel about this.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, John. So I'm reading the statute on a Class A motorhome. I have it in front of me here. I just have some reservations about limiting is it just the under 15 years old? Is that what the defining factor is?
The 15-year provision is something we added in addition to the state statute. I don't think state statutes has a 15-year limit on it.
Right. No, that doesn't. But I mean,
specifically so that it would only include newer vehicles.
okay. So based on the state statute, it is entirely plausible that a school bus or other kind of vehicle that meets those minimum requirements under the state statute could be considered a Class A motorhome with some considerable refurbishment on the inside of it, because it doesn't prohibit it as long as it meets the under 15 and over 20. Is it 20 feet? 25 feet?
Over 20 is how.
20 feet. So conceivably, when we all think of Class A motorhomes, we're thinking about, the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 ones you see on the lots. However, based on the state statute that I'm reading, with a lot of ingenuity and some money, you could easily convert, let's say, a 13-year-old school bus into a Class A motorhome, as long as it has, quote unquote, independent life support systems, basically, is what it means, where it has a bathroom and it has its own power supply, its own fuel supply, etc., separate from the engine and so forth. So conceivably, it could include a refurbished vehicle from what I'm reading.
I would agree with that assessment. I mean, if a school bus were to meet the requirements of state statute definitions for type A motorhome, it could conceivably be used under the language we have right now. There's no restriction on that other than age.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mr. Chair, since there's a moment of silence here, I'll continue with my question.
Go for it.
John, was there any consideration to possibly including a provision in there that it would not allow refurbished vehicles in there, and it had to be original equipment only, OEM?
Yeah, I don't believe that discussion came up. So I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. I'm just wondering because, there is a lot of different ways to convert a lot of different types of vehicles out there. And, my concern is we haven't gone far enough into a definition as to what we want there. And that still leaves open a lot for interpretation. And I know what we're trying to accomplish in the long run. And I just don't know if we want a bunch of refurbished school buses sitting along Vermillion. Go ahead, Dan. You can have my time. Go ahead.
Recognize that we're talking specifically about the ordinance proposal before you. On a separate semi-parallel track, we, through our attorneys, have been negotiating what that application might look like with this particular developer. And in that specific negotiated agreement, what the interim use permit would look like, which allows some conditions similar to what you might have in a special use permit. It has, I'm going by memory here, I'm sorry, but it has some additional photograph rendering showing here's what we envision under this agreement for acceptable motorhomes within that Class A distinction. So it isn't in that development or that potential interim use permit application. It does show sort of those off the lot original manufactured, not the custom home built type options that might be out there. So it's possible that the ordinance is fairly broad at what that definition is, but any individual applicant would still need to have something negotiated within the parameters of the ordinance and the parallel application that we're trying to work with does at least indirectly address that concern you're bringing up about the refurbished school bus.
Okay. So in other words, it could be like a condition. Oh, sorry.
So in that case, the conditions are picking up that it might not say OEM, but it is at least addressing the more egregious possibilities there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'm just have one quick question. The applicant is he looking to provide a facility? And I'm just kind of trying to piece this together. He's looking to operate a facility that would maintenance Class A vehicles, or would it be a sales lot, or what are we looking at here or is that part of the definition here of camping that we put in here, that it will be a facility that will be a temporary station for people that will be able to come in and pull their Class A vehicle in, temporarily park and camp on these sites? What are we looking to do with these changes here? I'm missing something here.
Sure, Commissioner Matzke. What is being proposed is for what's termed a motor coach commerce facility, which would allow vehicles to be parked for an indeterminate period of time. That people could temporarily park there, sort of like an RV park. Although the motor coach commerce facility has a definition that has certain parameters on the condition of the vehicle. It has to be Class A, has to be less than 15 years. Sort of like a camping facility or an RV facility. But with the further restrictions on the type of vehicles are limited and the age of vehicles are limited on here. So that's what would be allowed as an interim use permit under the code here.
So essentially an RV park type of.
We have definitions in here for RV and camping, which are specifically excluded from the areas within the C2 district. So they are provided definitions. Camping is tents. RVs are not Class A vehicles. Those type of uses are not going to be allowed within the C2 district. It provides further clarification on that. The only window we're opening up within the C2 district is for Class A vehicles of 15 years or less in age.
Okay.
Would there be a caveat as to length of stay? Again, this might be fine tuning in a specific permit, but there's nothing here in the code changes.
No, within the code changes itself, we don't have anything with a length of stay requirement on there. That's been with this specific application. That's been a subject of discussion here back and forth. Our intent is to have something that would be temporary in nature so that we're not having permanent residency established within these motor coaches. That would be something that would be specific within an interim use permit if it was issued, length of stay and the length of the permit.
Now, if I'm thinking about this right, I mean, what is there, one or two parcels involved with this potential? Can we park three of these things, or what kind of space are we looking at?
Yeah, Commissioner, we're looking at a total of, I think, 12 altogether here. This would be a small area that's in front of the former Super 8, the Sky Harbor Hotel on Vermilion Street near 23rd, 24th Street.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Gino.
John, quick question. Is this motor coach commerce facility going to have hookups, electrical, water, and permanent sewer, or how's that working for their short stay here at this facility?
Yeah, Commissioner, the concept plans that I've been showing here do provide for those type of facilities, yes.
Okay, so it'll be a permanent hookup. Oh, not permanent. I'm sorry, not permanent hookup. It'll be a connection to sewer, water, and electric at a
Right,
base.
physical hookups available, correct.
Okay, thank you.
John, if I may.
Go ahead.
So the 15-year-old provision, how would that be enforced as far as vehicles coming in? Is there going to be, if we were to say you were allowed, if they meet all these requirements and all these things going forward, is there going to be a big sign in front of part of this thing that says your RV must be less than 15 years old? Or is somebody going to check this? I guess I get the point of they're trying to make it classy and trying to make it not look like an RV park. I don't understand how that works, though.
Sure. You're not alone on that one, Commissioner. We had some back and forth on that one as well. Ultimately, they're going to have a person in charge of registering vehicles as they come in for the stays. They're responsible for that. We have the ability to check that as well if we see there may be an issue. There would be a connection between the permit itself and the adherence to the 15 years. So there could be the potential, if they're in violation of that 15-year clause, that their permit would be in jeopardy.
Okay. I see what we're kind of doing here is kind of dancing around a little bit, but it just seems like a very odd thing to put into an actual, the actual the city code of this. I understand in a special use permit or anything like that, that being a clause as part of that, where we say, as a condition, we could do this or set up some more rules. But it just seems a little bizarre. I get it. It seems, I don't know. It's interesting. That's all I have here. Thanks.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. It's very, very pointed to a point. Is there a way that these things aren't handled on an individual basis anyway, without having specific language about type A, et cetera, et cetera. I understand this is probably, well, kind of back to that too. So every time someone comes along with a new idea, we're gonna have to change the code so that we can amend, permit somebody else to do something. Is this how it works, or are some things just can be adopted, through the permitting process? You know what I'm saying, John?
Yeah. I hear a little bit, Mr. Chairman. With the C2 code, the uses within the district are fairly ambiguous right now. And there, is an argument that this person has brought forward as to this fits within the code. I, as a staff member, looked at it, but no, I don't think so. And we've been in negotiations with the council for a number of months here, under the direction, let's see if we can come to some sort of changes within the code that this could be allowed on a very limited basis. So this is consistent with that discussion that we've had. But to your larger point as to if someone comes forward with a new use that's not within the code, are we going to be doing a lot of gymnastics with the code to make it allowed? It's a fair point.
It's like some jobs, other duties as assigned. So there'd be a clause, and anyway, Gina.
Define 15 years or less as far as age goes. What parameter are you using to, or what parameter are they using to determine if the vehicle is 15 years, or just somebody rolls in and says, yep, don't worry about it, this is a 2015, and then we're good? How are they verifying that? Are they required to bring a title in with VIN verification on it? I mean, how are they policing this? I don't even, because most recreational parks don't have these kind of parameters on them as far as what age of the vehicle can be there. So I'm just a little confused of how they plan on. It's so ambiguous at this point. It's still ambiguous.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a fair point. I would say the age of the vehicle would be tied to the vehicle registration itself. So whatever year the vehicle registration title has, that would be the age of the vehicle. To the larger point as to how is one supposed to make a determination of a vehicle driving onto a lot as to whether it's 15 years or 20 years, there's going to be need to be a methodology established by the park owner to do that.
Okay, thank you.
So for clarification too, so basically the first, all this underlined text is new in chapter 30.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
The text included in chapter 30 for interim use permits, I would say 98% mimics that of the special use permit text in the next section.
Okay, and it wasn't there before.
Correct.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Commissioner.
So I just have a question about once everybody gets, let's say all things are going well with this and everybody gets all their, Class A things parked in there and they're all getting situated. Are there any provisions for what people can have sitting outside of their, out of their vehicle? If they can have, other canopy tents or anything like that? Is there any guidelines around that?
That's a very, very good point. Yes, there will be operational restrictions on this, and we've been spending some time as to what the rules of operation would be within that. So that would be outside of the code itself, but would be something that would be included with the permit. And so, yeah, things, in a very general sense, we want to be able to ensure that there's not a lot of clutter around the coaches that would be parked there. So the allowance for what one could have on the parking space there would be limited.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
John, I mean, at some point, is it easier just to say you're either going to allow an RV parks or motor coaches as an acceptable use there with the special use permit, or whatever you want to call it here, the interim use permit, without the arbitrary, say, 15-year thing set in there? If you're going to say that we need to allow this in this year for whatever reason it may be, the city needs to have this. I get the intention of the 15-year-old thing. I get that intention, but that seems more of like something that should be added to the actual interim use permit saying, hey, this is, what we want to do for this once we actually get there. This can be allowed, but it has to be following our standard of, our interim use permit, and saying we get to kind of dictate what we want to see here. If you don't like it, then, no, the permit doesn't come through. But I think it's just kind of clutters up the rest of it, because the rest of it, as far as the language and some of this looks good, and I think it's important to define some of this more of the C2 district, what it actually is. It's getting a mixture of very broad and very specific. That seems to be kind of a hang up here.
Yeah, Commissioner, I see your point there. With having the 15-year provision specific within the code itself. The reason we brought it forward in this circumstance with 15 years in the code is we want to be able to allow a very narrow window for operation of this type of use. We don't want to have something there that would be vehicles parked that would be of a lesser quality or of a lesser age than is being proposed by the applicant. So we're trying to keep that very tight in bringing forward the ordinance amendment here. So understand your point there, whether this would be something that would be better suited within a permit itself, but we wanted to make sure that provision, that bar, was within the ordinance, so we kept it very narrow.
All right. Thanks, John.
Commissioner Messina.
So just to summarize, so when we first had this, we had nothing, right? So this is something, which is better than nothing, and a compromise that's being worked out in this lawsuit kind of deal. So this is what they kind of came up with. And then, so we've got something which is better than nothing. So the other issues that we've all been bringing up would be legitimate issues that we could address under a specific application, such as freestanding structures, meaning additional tents, canopies, whatnot, pets. I mean, there's all sorts of things that go on at campgrounds. You've got pets, you've got, what are the pets gonna, what are they gonna do with their pets? I mean, there's so many things that are going through my mind, just from being at a campground, thinking to myself, this is on Vermilion Street. This is on a highway, with a lot of concrete and not a lot of anything else. So I'm trying to figure out where 12 pads are going to go, or however many a particular permit could. And then are they going to be concrete slabs? And are they just going to be these slabs and then pulling up on a concrete slab, or how? It's really hard to even visualize, because I know the property. I went and visited it. I just can't imagine how this is going to they're just going to back in or pull in, or how are they doing this? I just don't see it. I just don't see it as even working on that. I don't know. I have so many more questions than I do answers on this particular proposal. And I know we're not supposed to jump ahead to potential permits, because that's when you start losing focus as to what we're being asked to do. So I think we're being asked to do the right thing, but going forward, I just can't see any kind of concept like this working on that particular property with all of the things, all the conditions that we'd have to put on it. You know, what are we going to do for pets? What are we going to do for the number of people that can be in a motorhome? How are they going to regulate that? You know, if a motorhome only sleeps 6 and they've got 10, you know, they have people sleeping on the floor, on air beds or whatever. There's so many things that are going through my head as far as potential issues with how this might work. Food for thought, John, I guess. What do you think? Are a lot of those addressable under an interim use permit kind of situation where those conditions can be put on without putting ourselves into another legal issue, so to speak?
Commissioner, yeah, there's kind of a two-step process here. One is the allowance for this type of use to be considered in the framework for how it could be considered. And then there's the forthcoming application itself, assuming that comes forward, in which interim use permit site plan comes forward. Here's the layout. Here's where they're parked. Here's the proposal for the rules. You have a better idea operationally how this would work, and you'll have the discretion as to what sort of limitations you may place on that or changes that you may recommend.
Okay. So essentially, I mean, since this is narrower than what we have now, there's really no reason why we wouldn't move forward with it, because it's actually putting better parameters on something where we don't have any, essentially.
The biggest change that we have here is when we brought this forward in February, there was not a provision for allowance of this type of use. Now there is, but a very narrow one. We're trying to craft it as narrow as we can.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Kind of another quick, another twist or possibility of something might happen. If there's going to be hookups, is there a facility for any other RV just to pass through and, do the dump station thing? Is this going to be, would it be considered for that use, or is this something again that would be nailed down in an actual permit? But what about passers through? So, you're talking about people parking here and setting up shop for a finite number of days, which we would specify in a permit. Is there anything for passers through to use the facilities, as it were?
You mean restroom facilities outside of a motorhome itself?
No, I'm referring to passing motorhomes coming through to hook up and dump their tanks and fill up their water and
Got it. Okay, so the dump stations and so
dump
forth.
stations, yeah.
Yeah, that would be as part of the interim use permit site plan. What I've seen of the concept plan is that there would be a dump station as proposed.
Right. And is that limited to type A's?
I don't know if it's necessarily limited to type A's. As part of this commerce facility concept they're proposing, it's to wash and service motorhomes. Those motorhomes may include other homes that are not parked within the park itself. So you could see other vehicles being washed or serviced that do not meet the requirements of the park and are not staying within the park. That could be a possibility.
Okay. Commissioner Messina.
And that just brought up one thing in my mind. Is there a seasonality concept to this change here as far as seasons go? Because you're not going to get motorhomes pulling in there in the middle of winter. So what's the potential there? I know it's probably part of the interim use permit, but from the city's perspective, operationally, what do they see? Because this is a seasonal type of situation.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine there's not a lot of activity here during the winter months. but it wouldn't necessarily preclude activity from occurring on this one. Within the operational guidelines that we've been drafting for this specific use here, there has been provisions added in there relating to prohibiting styrofoam and other insulating materials that you see around motor coaches in other places from being done here. So the whole point of this is that these are designed to be transitory in nature, that you're going to be moving from one area to another, and you're not going to be hunkering down here and providing a lot of insulation for a winter run.
Okay. And when you said washing of the other motorhomes that aren't necessarily staying there, is this an indoor facility? I haven't seen. I can't remember what the concept was. Or are they just washing outside?
Yeah, there wasn't much of a building. It was a very small accessory shed type of building. They stated that they would provide ancillary services, which could include washing and servicing. So it's such a small vehicle and such a small building and such a small lot itself. I don't know how much activity really would occur, but that's what I've seen in concept form.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chair, one more question.
Go ahead.
Hey, John, I'm sorry.
Don't be.
If this were not to pass for some reason, what then happens?
The ordinance itself, are you talking about
Tonight,
specifically from the planning commission or as a whole by the council?
from the planning commission tonight.
The planning-
I know it'll go on to city council, and then if it doesn't pass, what happens?
Yeah. So what we're asking for is a recommendation to occur tonight, so that when talking to our league attorneys involved in the lawsuit, they would like to have an amendment brought forward by the end of January. So in order to do that, that's why we're having the meeting here on the 28th. We typically don't have a meeting. So moving this along is of importance on that one. If the planning commission were to recommend denial of it, it would brought forward with a recommendation of denial on this one. The council ultimately were to deny this, then we'd have to make some determinations how that would affect the potential lawsuit, if that might move forward. Right now, it's been scheduled. We're getting to some of the discovery and some of the pre-trial activities occur. So it's moving forward towards an actual trial itself, albeit we're working hard to see if we can come up with some sort of resolution to avoid that.
Okay, thank you.
Should we throw a motion out there, commissioners?
I'll make the motion.
Commissioner Mansky making a motion to recommend approval of the proposed changes. Second on the floor?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Was a motion to approve both, or are we taking them individually or separate, or as a group?
You mean as far as chapter 30 and chapter 155?
Yeah, are we doing them individually or together?
I was going to throw the whole ball of wax together, but I like the breakup idea because I have reservations about one and not the other. But anyway, Todd, it's up to you. You made the motion. You're muted.
I'll make the motion to split, on the first half. Let's just get this thing started on the first.
So we'll-
We'll split the 155 and 30.
so your first motion would be to approve the changes for chapter 30.
Correct.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. First and seconded. Any further discussion? Let's call roll on that one, John.
Okay, a roll call. Commissioner Matsky,
Aye.
Commissioner Best,
Aye.
Commissioner Hallberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Messina,
Aye.
and Commissioner Romans.
Aye.
I will note that passes 6-0.
All right, so now we're going to focus on proposed changes to chapter 155.
I'll make a motion again
All
to
right,
adopt 155.
thank you, Commissioner Matsky. Seconded on the floor, anybody?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Romans. Any further discussion on this one? I just might add, I think this is one where we're, well, at least in my mind, this is the part where we're trying to make this shoe fit. And I guess I have my reservations about being so specific about, one permit. It brings me back to when are we going to be changing this again to accommodate something else? I don't know if there's language appropriate that we can put in here such that these can be dealt with without amending the code. That's just my thought.
I guess for me, I understand why the specific language, just in reaction with the lawsuit. I think the bigger thing is, even with this language in there, at the end of the day, it's the permit that really is where all the true discussion will lie, and the true critiquing would be. I appreciate more specific language in here, like Gino had stated earlier. And I understand that this is all encompassing due to the litigation the city's going through right now with the applicant. So I guess for me, my reservations are kind of quelled knowing the fact that when they apply for the permit, that's when the rubber really hits the road. That's just my 2 cents.
Mhm.
I get the feeling it's going to be very difficult to maintain all the parameters that are being set, such as the 15-year, the type of vehicle, the size of the vehicle, who's going to police all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, if they can run a clean business that is unintrusive to the neighborhood, it's going to be another business for Hastings. So I guess if it's going to be reviewed annually, as stated within the rules, and they can keep things clean and unintrusive, I don't see why we would try and stand in the way of this. That's my 2 cents.
Commissioner Messina?
Yeah, to Commissioner Maskey's point, excellent point. It's an interim use permit situation, so it's an annual review. So that that to me was a huge compromise right there compared to where we were. So we at least get to look at it every year if something's not working. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you. Dan,
Just point of clarification, and I'm looking at John. It may not be an annual review. The term that's set in that interim permit might be a 3-year permit or a 6-month permit. It's just a matter of it's not automatically annual, but the other piece to it would be if that permit says here's the conditions. I heard something about freestanding awnings and tents and structures and pets and air mattresses. At any point during that 6-month, 1 year, 3 year, at any point during the term of their permit, if there's violations, it can be viewed at any point, not just on an annual basis. So just a point of clarification, maybe you understood that, Gino, and I misunderstood your comment, but it caught my ear.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I went a little specific. I meant it can be reviewed. When I said annually, I just used a 1-year clause. But yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Yeah, it can be reviewed at any point. Thank you.
all right, excellent, very good points. So what I'm understanding is that potential permit could be revoked because it's in violation, not necessarily under a 6-month or a period review.
Yeah, there would be the ability to revoke the permit for a violation of that permit during any time. It would need to be 1 year, 5 years, 3 years. If the permit violation occurred, a revocation could occur.
Yeah. Outstanding. Anybody else? Very good discussion. Appreciate this. Should we call roll?
Hey, Mr. Chair,
Motion and a second on the floor, right?
Yeah, that is correct, Mr. Chair. I can call
Right.
at this time. Commissioner Romans,
Aye.
Commissioner Messina,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hallberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Best,
Aye.
and Commissioner Matsky.
Aye.
I will note that this recommendation passes with a 6-0 vote. What will happen at this point is this ordinance amendment will move forward to the City Council at their first meeting in January. That would be first reading and to order a public hearing. That public hearing and ordinance adoption, I think, would be January 19th at this point. So thank you very much.
All right. Next agenda item, we have a new year upon us. We're looking at elections, some planning commissioners. We need a chair and a vice chair. And I don't know if it's appropriate, but John, we have some new commission members joining us next month, right?
We do, yeah. It's interesting the way that the city code states when elections are to occur. They state that the elections for the chair and vice chair should occur for the following year should occur in December of the previous year. So it provides the opportunity for outgoing commissioners to have a say in the selection of the chair and the vice chair for those positions. So the only other requirement that we have on there is that to be eligible to serve as chair or vice chair, one has to have served on the commission for at least 1 year here. So I think that would be eligibility would extend to everybody present here, but for Commissioner Matsky and obviously Commissioner Johnson, who will be leaving us at the beginning of next year. And so this can be done either as a single motion for chair and vice chair, or they can be split up. So the procedure for this would be for a member to make a motion, gain a second, and then move on from there.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
First off, thank you for your leadership over the last year plus, your dedication to the Planning Commission for your entire run. Your thoughtfulness and insight is going to be sorely missed. So first off, thank you for everything you've done.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And then I'd like to make a motion to nominate Gino for chair and Kyle for vice chair.
I guess I'm in the ring here. I'll second that.
Okay, so I've got a motion and second on the floor. We'll do a roll call. Commissioner Matzke,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hallberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Best,
Aye.
Commissioner Messina,
Aye.
and Commissioner Romans.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
We will note that our chair and vice chair next year will be Gino as chair and Romans as vice chair. So congratulations. Look forward to that for next year. So that's all I had for business tonight. As far as updates go, has been noted, this is Commissioner Johnson's last meeting here. Mitch has served on the commission now for over 6 years, the last year and a half or so as chair of the commission. I will echo Commissioner Hallberg's comments, and he provides very steady leadership, very thoughtful. It's always good when a commissioner brings things up that I hadn't thought about. That's the whole point of having a commission here, is to be able to get different views from applications that come forward. And Mitch has been very good at doing that over the years. So his leadership will surely be missed, and we wish Mitch the best in his future endeavors. That being said, we do have a couple of changes coming on the Planning Commission. We've got 2 new planning commissioners starting beginning in January, Melanie Peters and Chris Teichen. One of them to fill Mitch's spot on the commission, and Lisa Siebenauer has resigned from the commission, so we had a vacancy that will be filled by the other position. So 2 new commissioners starting in January here. So that'll be good. Very good interviews. Looking forward to their service on the commission here. As far as other actions, we haven't met since November. Things that have occurred, we have finally had the approval of the comprehensive plan after, 2-3 years, I think, of going through that between the task force and the submittal to Metropolitan Council. So that has been official and in place as we speak right now. So I think everything is new and updated on the website. We also had some approvals of a land sale in the industrial park for Simply Secure Storage and other mini storage sites. So I think we'll be having applications for that coming forward to Planning Commission in early 2021 as well. And then the development just keeps continuing here. You probably have seen dirt being turned over west of General Sieben Drive for Heritage Ridge, the new subdivision there. The other subdivisions and residential development that we looked at this year, those projects are all moving forward into 21. So we'll see a lot more activity going on at that time. So that's all I had tonight.
John, real quick before we end, I know Lisa's not here tonight, but a thank you to her as well for her service to the council, to the commission. I just want to make sure we threw that out there.
Sure. Thank you.
So thank you, Lisa, wherever you are.
Yeah, likewise. I've seen a fair amount of commissioners come and go, and I tell you what, it's really been a pleasure working with you guys. We got a real, thoughtful, considerate, and intelligent group here, and it's just been an honor working with you all and other commissioners in the past. Appreciate the chance to serve in this manner. So, thank you all. Should we adjourn?
Yep. I guess we could take a motion for adjournment.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay.
And
Roll call vote. We'll go Romans,
Aye.
Messina,
Thanks, Mitch. Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Hallberg,
Aye.
Best,
Aye.
and Matsky. So thank you very much. We are adjourned. Have a great new year. I'll see you in January.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Near.